Okay, here we go. Kedarkeinu Bakodesh. I'd like to start with a beracha. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Sha'akol Niya Bidvaro.
Amen.
Gentlemen, I have something special for you tonight. Tonight is one of my most favorite shiurim. It's not always that I get the opportunity to say over something that over the years I enjoyed so much, both the research and the delivery of this particular topic. The Mar Mekomot comes from my very good friend, Rabbi Gladstein, Hashem shall bless him. His Mar Mekomot are magnificent. He's a magnificent rabbi. I'd like to be able to expound tonight and to be able to take to another level the following magnificent chidush of the great Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz, Zecher Tzadik Lebracha. Gentlemen, everyone's out there getting ready for Pesach. And believe me, these 2 weeks that lead up to the great night of Pesach, it goes by so quick. There's so much to do and no time to do it. Nonetheless, understand that you don't just walk into the night of Pesach. You need fantastic preparation, because this type of a night is a night to live for. It's going to be this great night of Pesach that the Jewish people again are going to receive the 10 greatest blessings of history. Don't forget, it was the night of Pesach that Yitzchak Avinu gave to Yaakov the blessing, V'yiten lecha Elohim, V'yitan hashamayim, V'shmanei haaretz, Rov dagan v'tirosh. The 10 greatest blessings of history was given to us, the Jewish people, the night of Pesach. Every single year. When that night comes back again, Hashem comes down to Klal Yisrael, and He wants to see, are we worthy to be able to be the recipients of those 10 greatest blessings again? So this is the biggest night of the year. This is the night of Pesach. You thought the holiday, it was called Pesach because Hashem jumped? Hashem passed over the houses of the Jewish people? Yes, that is true. But it's a night that we can jump as well. It's a night that we can leap and jump and reach such heights of blessing like no other night of the year. And therefore, I thought it was very apropos that within and between all the Pesach preparations, because here comes a big night, Hashem's going to come down and He's going to see how much we prepared, how much we did, how much we kind of knocked ourselves out in order to make this Pesach special. But even more so, He's going to look to see not just how special you made Pesach for yourself, but maybe even more so. Did you make Pesach possible for somebody else? Don't forget, we're so caught up with the incredible preparations of the matzah, the seder, the dirashot, the cleaning, all the halachot. My gosh, especially this year. This year, Erev Pesach falls out on Shabbat. Do you know how many more halachot the rabbi needs to bring out to the people? Because they're so not ready. They're not used to a year where B'dikat Chametz is not the night before Pesach. Friday is not Erev Pesach. Biur Chametz is going to be done on Shabbat. This is a wild year. But within all those incredible halachot and all the preparations and all what it takes to make this amazing Chag, Borei Olam tells us, don't forget the people who need your help. We don't look just to see how much of a Pesach you made for yourself. We look to see more if you are instrumental in making a Pesach for others. And that's why I thought tonight's topic would be so important. This is by far one of my most favorite shiurim. Do you know how I knew to give this class tonight? Do you know that I just you not? I did not know I was giving this class till 10 minutes to 9. I mean that. I really mean that. All day, I was looking for something knack, something good to say tonight. And I had a lot of stuff on Pesach. But for some reason, it just wasn't working out tonight. So I looked back to Vayakel and Pikudei. And I thought maybe I'll say something on Shabbat. But we already spoke on Shabbat. Maybe I'll say something on Pikudei. But the topics there were similar to that which we touched upon in Kitisa. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, the clock is ticking. And I'm not getting younger. What am I saying tonight? 10 to 9. The idea dropped in my head. Duvi, tonight you gotta give the Kimcha the Pischa speech. Tonight you gotta talk about Kimcha the Pischa, because everybody is so worked up about making their own Pesach personal and perfect that they forgot one of the biggest mitzvot. One of the biggest mitzvot of Pesach is to make sure that those who are in dire need has just a beautiful Pesach as you do. Kimcha de Pesach. Let's talk about this amazing idea tonight. Eibshitz, give me the kochot and the words. Let me be able to give this one justice. You got to hear this. So this Gemara Batra Daf Yud, that the Gemara talks about Rav Papa. So the Gemara tells us that Rav Papa was going up a ladder, and as he was ascending this ladder, the words of the Gemara, Rav Papa, Havesalik Bidarga. So as he was going up the ladder, one of the steps on the ladder cracked, and Rav Papa came tumbling down. Says the Gemara, if we could freeze the frame of Rav Papa mid-air, the Gemara starts to tell you what he was thinking as he was falling. And Rav Papa says to himself, what did I do wrong? What did I do to deserve this fall? As he's coming to a bitter fall, thinking to himself what it was that he did wrong, it was there that there was a rabbi sitting and watch. A rabbi by the name of Reb Chia bar Rav Midifte. Reb Chia bar Rav is sitting watching Rav Papa taking the fall, and he screams out to Rav Papa, do you know why this happened to you? Not because of the things you're thinking. Rav Papa was thinking, somebody that's over sikila, one of the ways that they gave him the death sentence sikila wasn't just throwing rocks at him. A form of skila was that they would throw him off a high building to his death. So Rav Papa is saying, I'm taking this terrible fall from a high place. God forbid, did I ever do something that's chayav sikila? So Rav Chia bar Difte is sitting there and he says, no, Rav Papa, that's not why you're taking the fall. You want to know why that step cracked? You want to know why you're falling? Because one time, a poor man came knocking on your door, asking you for tzedakah, and you held money back, and you didn't give. That's the reason why you're taking this fall. Rabotai, how do you make sense of this? Could you come up with a connection between the stair breaking under the foot of Rav Papa on a ladder as he takes this terrible fall to holding back tzedakah from giving to an ani? What does holding back tzedakah have to do with the step breaking under the foot of Rav Papa on his way up the ladder and now falling? I mean, generally, the punishment should fit the crime. Do you see any connecting of these dots? Holding back tzedakah and the stair breaking under his foot to take a fall? What would be such a connection? Comes the Vilna Gaon, Rabbi Eliyahu mi Vilna, and he says one of the most amazing pshatim that I honestly, this is one of those wows. And I'm happy to share it with you tonight. L'chvod Pesach. Says the great Rabbi Vilna Gaon, you'll find the Gaon in the Pninim of the Shulchan of the Gra. You take a look in Parshat Re'eh. Says the Gaon, look at the pasuk of tzedakah. What are the words? Ki patoach tiftach et yadecha lo. Open your hand to him. It's a way of saying, open your hand wide. Open your pocket wide. When you give with a big hand. Give with a big heart. Ki patoach tiftach lo. Yadcha lo. Open your hand to him. Give him. V'ha'abet ta'abitenu de machsoro. Not only give him, but provide all that he lacks. Go the extra mile. Asher yechsar lo. Everything that he's missing, provide. Says the Gaon, when we are doresh, the words in Torah, it's not just the word we look into, but the ta'amim that you find on the words can teach us amazing lessons as well. You know what the ta'amim are. We're talking about the trup on the words. It's the song that we sing as we read the words of Torah. What is the sing song? What is the trup that you find on the two words? Patoach tiftach. Open your hand. Give tzedakah. Don't hold back. You take a look at these words, and you'll see on top of Patoach Tiftach, on bottom, of Patoach Tiftach, there are the ta'amim, Darga Tevir. Says the Gaon. Darga Tevir. Darga is milashon madrega, madregot, steps. Tevir in Aramaic, milashon tavra, means to break. Patoach tiftach, open your hand, give to the ani. What's the trup underneath? Because if you don't open your hand and give tzedakah, then you know, God forbid, what will take place? What does the trup under the word say? Darga tevir. The step will break underneath you, and God forbid, it'll cause a terrible fall. Whether it be a financial fall, whether it be a physical fall. It's because of this, says the great Vilna Gaon. This was the secret behind the story of Reb Papa in that Gemara Baba Batra. Reb Papa was actually going up this ladder. And as he's ascending the ladder, suddenly the step breaks underneath his foot. He's thinking, oh my gosh, I'm falling. Maybe I did something that's chayav sikila. Says Reb Chia Badifni, no. You held back money from an ani. And because of that, the step broke underneath your foot. And we asked, what? I mean, come on. What's Bechlal, the connection between the steps on the ladder and him not or holding back from giving tzedakah? Says the Gaon, what do you mean, what's the connection? It's open in the words of Torah. Patoach tiftach yadecha lo. Open your hand. Give to the ani all he needs. Because if you don't open your hand, then you fell to the ta'amim. Darga tevir. The step will break underneath you, and chas v'shalom, you'll take a fall. This is where Reb Chia Bar Difti knew the secret of why Reb Papa took this fall. Rabotai, this is unbelievable. But to tell you the truth, and what's amazing, as pointed out by the great Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz, this wasn't the first time in history that the step broke underneath the foot of somebody and they took a fall to their death. Do you know who I'm talking about? I'm talking about someone that everyone here knows. And the way that Hashem decided to take him from this world was that the step underneath his foot broke and he took a fall down to his death. I'm referring to none other than the great David HaMelech. The Gemara over there tells us in Shabbat, Daf Lamed Amud Aleph, going on to Daf Lamed Amud Bet. The Gemara tells us this amazing conversation between David HaMelech and Hashem. David HaMelech says to Hashem, Hodieni Hashem kitzi. Hashem, please, tell me the secret. Tell me the day that I am going to die. Borei Olam tells him, David, I'm sorry. My policy is that I don't reveal to anyone the day that they die. David HaMelech says, please, Borei Olam, if that's the case, you don't want to tell me the day, tell me the year. Says Borei Olam, sorry. Store policy. I don't tell. Not the year, not the time, not the day. Finally, David says, Borei Olam, please, at least tell me. If you're not going to tell me which day, which year, could you tell me what day in the week am I destined to be taken from this world? What day of the week will I die? So Hashem says, okay, David, that I'll tell you. B'Shabbat tamut. You're going to die on Shabbat Kodesh. David says, what? Hashem, if I die on Shabbat Kodesh, who's going to be the one to be mitapel with my burial? Who's going to be the one to be able to take care of my kivurah? I'm going to have to be able to hang overnight until they'll be able to bury me on the... Please, Hashem, please, can you do me a favor? Instead of taking me on Shabbat, can you take me on Sunday? Give me just one more day to live. Just one more day. And like this, if I pass away on Sunday, they'll be able to be mitapel with my kvura immediately. I won't have to hang. I won't have to have bizayon. I'll be able to be buried immediately with honor. Hashem says, I'm sorry, David. I cannot allow you to live even one more day extra. Because that next day already, it's earmarked in heaven, destined, that already is the beginning of your son Shlomo's kingdom. And we have a rule that Hashem will not allow one kingdom and its era to overlap another kingdom's era. It's already destined to the second of the moment when Shlomo's kingdom was meant to begin. I cannot allow your kingdom to overlap that time, not even a hair's breadth. And therefore, it's Shabbat that you're going to die. Now, when David HaMelech was told this amazing secret, revealed to him the day of his death, which day of the week at least, David decided he's going to beat the system. So what did David HaMelech do? Every single Shabbat, from that conversation and on, every Shabbat, David HaMelech would spend the entire Shabbat learning Torah from the beginning to end. Because he knew that while a person is involved in Torah learning, while he's grabbing onto the Etz HaChaim, Mavet cannot touch him. When a Jew is learning Torah, he actually becomes immortal. Not even the angel of death can touch him. And because of that, David HaMelech understood, if this is the day of the week, then I'm going to make sure that day is filled with Torah. I'm not going to make it easy to allow Malach HaMavet to take me on Shabbat. So every single Shabbat, he would learn Torah from the beginning to the end of Shabbat. Guys, if you've ever been to a Sephardic shul, and if you've ever sat in on Havdalah, Saturday night, Motzei Shabbat, you see that the Hazan, when he makes the Boreh Pri HaGefen, the whole shul starts cracking up and laughing. So, at first glance, it's simply because there's a minhag that at that point, we laugh so hard to start the week with a simcha, with a happiness. It opens the week with an incredible simcha. But the truth of the matter is, I found in Sfarim a different reason. We're actually mimicking what David HaMelech did every Motzei Shabbat by Havdalah. You see, because once he was told that Shabbat is the day that he's going to die. So every Shabbat that passed, and he learned the entire Shabbat, he said, ho ho, I beat the system. Even if he tried to get me, he couldn't touch me. I lived another Shabbat. I beat him another Shabbat. Another Shabbat I was untouchable. Another Shabbat I was immortal. He had such simcha when Motzei Shabbat came around that he lived another Shabbat, that when it came to the Havdalah, he was laughing. He made Borei Pri HaGefen, ha 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 ha. It was a victory, a happiness. It's an amazing idea. And that's why many people have the minhag, that by the Havdalah they laugh, commemorating David HaMelech's Havdalah at the end of every Shabbat. This is an incredible idea. It came from this story. But now, Rabotai, let's hear the end of the story. So what happened? How did the Malach HaMavet end up getting him? We all know. It's a very famous story. The Gemara tells us that David HaMelech, Shabbat after Shabbat, was learning Torah. And sure enough, the Shabbat of destiny finally came around. And the Malach HaMavet came to get him. And the Malach HaMavet comes to David HaMelech and he sees. He's shakua belimud. He's learning Torah. Malach HaMavet says, V'lo yacholo. I can't get him. What am I going to do? How am I going to get him? So the Malach HaMavet starts thinking, I can't touch him while he's learning. So what does he do? He goes out to the back of the castle and he begins to shake the trees as if it sounded like some sort of a typhoon or some side of a hurricane was outside. The trees were literally being ripped up from the ground. It made such a rash that David HaMelech jumped up from his Gemara to hear what in the world's going on outside. Says the Gemara, he walked up a few steps to look out the window, and as he went up the steps, one step broke from underneath his foot, and he fell down the steps to his death. And that was the moment that the Malach HaMavet took him. It's amazing. David HaMelech, from all ways to take him, the steps cracked from under his foot and he fell to his death. Amazing. Malach HaMavet goes outside, shakes the trees, and David HaMelech falls to his death. How do you explain that? Well, let's take this one step at a time. No pun intended. The Malach HaMavet could have taken David HaMelech in many different ways of creating a decoy, many different ways of creating distraction. Why did he decide to do it this way? Why did he shake the trees? Rabotai, open your hearts. We all know that when Adam HaRishon saw many years later in the future that there's going to be a David HaMelech, Adam HaRishon was actually the one who gave from his life 70 years so that David HaMelech may live. Adam HaRishon was supposed to live till the age of 1,000. He gave 70 years and only lived to the age of 930. Those 70 years was a matana, a present, that was given to David HaMelech. That present, David HaMelech was able to live 70 years of his life. Why did Adam HaRishon, from all people, give a present of years from all people to David? Chazal tell us, David HaMelech was a Gilgul of Adam HaRishon. If you take a look at the name Adam, Aleph, Dalid, Mem, it actually stands for Aleph Adam, Dalid David, Mem Mashiach. In that name, you already have the entire span of history. From the first man to the middle man, so to speak, till the last man. Adam, David, Mashiach. Aleph, Dalid, Mem. Adam. And therefore, when Adam HaRishon gave 70 years to the life of David HaMelech, really what the essence he did was, he took 70 years from his right pocket and put it in his left pocket. He actually took it from his life of round 1 and gave it to his life of round 2. You see, Adam HaRishon, when he sinned 3 hours into his creation. 3 hours. 3 hours into his creation. 3 hours into him being created, he sinned. What's amazing is, Hashem told him, the day you eat from the forbidden tree, you die. Did he die? No. Chazal tell us he was thrown out of Gan Eden. Chazal say that when he was thrown out of Gan Eden, it was tantamount to death. But there's a deeper pshat. And that is that many, many years later, Adam's Gilgul, David HaMelech, he's born. This baby was only supposed to live for 3 hours. He was supposed to die after 3 hours to capture the curse and the punishment of Adam HaRishon. David was supposed to pay the price of Adam HaRishon. Adam was supposed to die after 3 hours when he sinned, and he didn't. So now baby David, when he was born, he was supposed to die 3 hours later. And Adam HaRishon looks into the future and he says, this baby is going to die because of my sin? That's not right. I have to help him. He's going to be the tikkun of me. So he takes 70 years of his life, round 1, and he throws it to 70 years of his life, round 2. And now, instead of this David baby living only 3 hours, he lives 70 years in 3 hours. Amazing. And if that's the case, you'll understand good and well now why the Malach HaMavet, who, by the way, is another name for the Nahash. This is pretty cool what's going on here. Round 1, Adam, Nahash. Round 2, David, Malach HaMavet, a.k.a. Adam, Nahash. Same story, deja vu, all over again. Round 2. He's coming to get him again. The Nahash brought down Adam the first time, and here round 2, the Malach HaMavet, a.k.a. Nahash, is coming to bring down David, a.k.a. Adam, again. How do you bring down Adam? Well, how did he bring him down the first time? Through the forbidden tree. So therefore, the second time when Malach HaMavet is coming to get David HaMelech, what does he decide to do in order to create a distraction? There you go. He goes to the back of the castle and he shakes the trees. By shaking the trees, it was symbolic that he's kind of shaking up the sin of the Etz Hadat. He's shaking up the tree that brought him down the first time. And now he's bringing him down again. And David felt in his bones something shaking him. He gets up to look outside to see what's going on. He walks up a few steps. And by the way, the Gemara goes out of its way to tell you. The Gemara didn't just say David got up from his learning and at that moment the Malach HaMavet killed him, took him. That's what it should have said. I mean, that would be the obvious. No, the Gemara goes into detail. Says the Gemara, listen to this. After the Malach HaMavet started to move around Ilane, the trees, listen to this. Nafak lemechve. He got up to look. Havisalik bidarga. He went up the steps. Ifchit darga mitute. The step cracked from underneath him. V'nach nafshe. The Gemara goes into a lot of detail to tell you, not just the Malach HaMavet took him at the moment that he got up from learning, but how did he take him? Through a broken step. Wait 1 second. The Gaon just explained to us that the broken step is the punishment, or maybe the method, that something that's apropos to someone who could have given tzedakah and held it back. That's the way he explained that first Gemara, Rapapa. And if that's the case, now that we see David HaMelech also passed away that way, so it must be that David also had some sort of a scenario where he could have given tzedakah and he held back. Is that true? Comes Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz in Yarod Vash, and he says something beyond words. This is something unbelievable. Says Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz, maybe give him a chair, he'll be more comfortable to sit. Standing is never comfortable for anyone. Give him a chair, give him a chair. There you go. I think he'll be much more comfortable. Comes Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz and says something. I tell you, Rabotai, this rewrites the books. There was one thing on David HaMelech's bucket list that was bo'er in him more than any other thing in the world. His life's dream. He wanted to build the Bet HaMikdash more than anything else. Anything else. From a young boy, we're going to find out, till later on in life, his life's dream, his bucket list, number one, was to build the Bet HaMikdash. I feel so foolish as an American kid. We all grew up with our bucket lists. I wish that I had enough Yirat Shamayim to say that, as a kid, as a child, my one thing I wanted to build. I got older. Maybe today I can get a little closer to that goal. But when I was a kid, my bucket list, was to meet Bruce Lee. That was my bucket list. My bucket list was to go swimming with dolphins. That was my crazy. When we're kids, we're crazy. Crazy stuff. My bucket list, I wanted to go see the pyramids in Egypt. I still do. Maybe this Pesach. Nah. Rather go to Israel.
Probably retreat there.
Yeah, probably.
Already living in Egypt.
That's what I'm saying. 'Tis the season, right? This is it. But look what David HaMelech's bucket list was. Look what he dreamt about. He dreamt that he would only be so lucky enough to be the one to build the Bet HaMikdash. Let me tell you the story behind this. It's fascinating. Why didn't David actually get to build the Bet HaMikdash? Because you know what God told him? You know what the Pasuk says in Divrei HaYamim, Chav Bet Chet? You know what the Pasuk says? Hashem told David, I can't allow you to build the Bet HaMikdash for me. You know why? Because there's too much blood on your hands. You went to so many wars. You killed so many. There's so much blood on your hands. Those hands cannot build a Bet HaMikdash. Do you want to hear the words of this pasuk just to move you just a little bit? Vayihi alai devar Hashem lemor. Listen to this. Dam larov shafachta. You spilled so much blood, David. Umilchamot gdolot. Asita, you made these tremendous milchamot, King David. Lo tivne bayit lishmi. You cannot build my house for my name. Ki damim rabim shafachta. Because you spilled a lot of blood. Artza lefanai. Wow, this is very moving pasuk. David HaMelech, I know all you wanted to do is build the Bet HaMikdash, but I can't allow it. Because you spilled too much blood. You have too much blood on your hands. And it must have been heartbreaking. But guys, if you think about this for a minute, does this make sense? I mean, really? Does this make sense at all? Could you imagine if Hashem would come to a mohel and he said to him, how many Brit Milah did you do in your lifetime? How many? 3,000? 2,000? You spilled so much blood. There's so much blood on your hands. No, I can't allow you to build the Bet HaMikdash. Hashem, what do you mean? I mean, it was dam mitzvah. I was doing your will. You wanted me to be mohel. You wanted me to do this great mitzvah, Brit Milah. How great the mitzvah is. And now you would tell me that there's blood on my hands? Rabotai, never in a million years would Hashem tell anyone that if there's blood of a mitzvah on his hands, he can't build the Bet HaMikdash. Not a mohel, not a shochet, not someone who checks, the checkings of nida.
They say that someone who's like a butcher or something.
A butcher is something else. But I'm just talking about someone who's involved in mitzvot. Milah, dam nida, anything that has to do with blood. Just the opposite. You know what we say? The Omar lach b'damayich chayi. The Omar lach. You will live in the blood of mitzvah. The blood of mitzvah gives you life. It's a compliment. It's an honor. Not the opposite. And yet, what does God tell David HaMelech? You did so many wars. Hashem, I was fighting for you. I was fighting for the Jewish people. I was fighting for Klal Yisrael. I went out to conquer for you. I went out to defend for you. David was a great, mighty warrior. Let's not forget where his career began. On the battlefield. David and Goliath. Do you know what type of Kiddush Hashem that was? It's the greatest Kiddush Hashem. But there was blood spilled. But that was the blood of Kiddush Hashem. Would that be a reason not to let him build the Bet HaMikdash? How does this make sense? Says Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz, that's not what the pasuk means at all. You cannot read that pasuk in the simple pshat. I'm going to tell you now the story behind the story. This is something, wow. I'm happy you came tonight. You hear this once, really. Says Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz as he cites the Yalkut Shimoni in Ruth. Amazing Yalkut. The Yalkut tells us David HaMelech, when he was yet a boy, it's a machloket how old he was. Machloket. If he was 7, 9, 12, 14, but not older than that. He was a young boy, walks on the battlefield, and he looks at the giant in the eye. They tried to put on the armor of Shaul. Shaul was a very tall man. They tried to put on the armor of Shaul. And yet, Shaul HaMelech, he saw that the armor didn't fit. He was a young boy. David walked out to the battlefield with nothing but a slingshot. And God, which is everything. Amazing. And after he ripped that rock between the eyes of the giant, the Midrash talks about a miracle that the metal of the helmet of Goliath actually opened up and the rock passed through and hit him right between the eyes and brought the giant down on his knees. It was at that moment that David runs up and unsheathes his sword and decapitates him. And he kills the giant. Unbelievable. Ding dong, the witch is dead. The story of David and Goliath. Unbelievable story. We all know the story. Do you know what happened after that? Says the Yalkut. In those years, there was this amazing custom. A war hero, someone who saved the people. As he would come home, they would give him a homecoming parade, and everyone would throw all their gold and silver and jewelry on top of him. It was a way of giving a certain thanks, honor, and showing homage to the one that won the war, that saved the people. David gathered all that gold, silver, riches. It was incredible amount. Take a look at this pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'hineh be'onyi hachinoti lebet Hashem zahav kikarim 100,000 100,000 zahav kikarim. V'kesef, how much silver? 1,000 alafim. You're talking about millions. 1,000 alafim kikarim, millions. V'lanechoshet la barzel and mishkal. When it came to the copper and the metal ornaments, uncountable. Not able to even count. How much? Ki larov haya. Betzim v'avodim hachinoti v'alehem tosif. He went, the youngest billionaire in history, David HaMelech, that moment when he came back from the great success, victory over the giant, over Goliath. It's amazing. What did he do with all that money? You know what he did? V'hinei be'onyi hachinoti lebet Hashem. He took all that gold, all the silver, and he put it away in a storage house and earmarked it to build the Bet Hamikdash. This is what we call self-funding. I don't need anybody. I'm going to build it. I'm going to fund it. I'm going to be able to be the one that could literally boast that he built the house of Hashem. From his own money. He didn't spend a nickel. He remained ani. All the wealth that was given to him, earmarked to build the dream, the Bet HaMikdash. Amazing. And what happened? After that, he became king. And then one day, the Gemara in Berachot, Daf Gimel Amud Beit, tells us that there was a tremendous, horrific famine. There was nothing to eat. And the people were starving. And the people in Israel were hungry. And they came, the rabbis came that morning to David HaMelech, early morning. Everybody knows, the Gemara tells us on Daf Gimel, that every night David HaMelech would put his harp on the window so that by Hatzot Laila, the wind would blow in through the window and start moving the strings and playing melodious tunes. And that was that first provincial alarm clock. The music woke up David from those 60 breaths of sleep that he would take, which is practically nothing. He would jump out of bed and he would begin his night at Hatzot, learning Torah all night, Tikkun Hatzot, well, not yet because the Bet HaMikdash was not built yet, but he learned Torah all night and he would be mechaber what we have today, the great book of Tehillim. It came from those nights. Amazing. This is what David did all night. At the end of one of these nights, the rabbis come knocking on the door of King David and they say, David HaMelech, please, we need help. The people are starving. The people are in such a terrible famine. You got to do something. We got to do something. David HaMelech says, if that's the case, let's make a law that the people in Israel, when they start their business, all commerce must be done between Jews. Like this, the money will flow between the people who need it most. We'll get the economy going. We'll get the cash flow going. We'll bring the money back to the people of our kingdom. They said, but David, that's still not going to be enough. The mashal they gave, if you dig a hole in the ground, the dirt, if you try to fill that hole back up with the dirt that came out of it, it never fills it completely. The ditch is never completely filled by its own dirt. That was the mashal they gave David. The meaning to say that your own economy in this deep hole can't completely fill the problem. We need a better solution. So David HaMelech says, okay, if that's the case, holech ligdud, go out to war. Go out and fight. Let's go conquer a country. And the spoils of war and the booty of war we'll use to bring back and make the people wealthy again. Rabotai, war is Gehenam. You heard that in English, that quip. War is not easy. There is casualties in war. But the rabbis were hinting to David, you want to go to war? David, just open your storehouses. You're a multi-billionaire. Take the money that you put aside, give it to the people, feed the people. But in David's mind, that money was earmarked for the Bet Hamikdash. It was earmarked for the Bet Hamikdash. He held back that money. And he did not give it to the people at the time that they were starving. Instead, he was telling them, better go to war. Says Borei Olam. They went to war. And blood was spilled because you didn't want to give out that money. You thought it was more important to build the Bet HaMikdash than to save and support the aniyim of the Jewish people. And because of that, that money cannot build a Bet HaMikdash. There's blood on your hands. Not the blood of mitzvah, not the blood of the wars that he went out Milchemet Hashem to fight against enemies, not the blood of the wars of Goliath, not the blood of the wars of Kiddush Hashem. No. The blood of mitzvot, that's honor. That's not the blood Hashem was referring to. Hashem was referring to the blood of the wars that did not have to be fought if you would have opened your houses of wealth and supported the aniyim and given them at the time of their need. And because David held back that money from the aniyim of Israel, says Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz, Darga Tevir. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. What does the pasuk say? Ki patoach tiftach yadecha lo. Open your hand. Because if you don't open your hand, you know what the trup is underneath? You know what the tamim? Darga Tevir. Take a look at what happened to Reb Papa. That's what happened to David HaMelech. Ifchit darga mitute v'nachnafshe. The Gemara by David. The step broke from underneath his foot as he went up the steps to look out the window to see what was the rustling of the trees. And the stair cracked underneath his foot and he fell to his death. Because if it's not patoach tiftach, it's darga tevir. The step breaks underneath. Unbelievable. This is unbelievable. Wow. Unbelievable. Rabotai, says Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz, if you want to see the brilliance behind this entire piece, he says later on, finally when the Bet HaMikdash is built, who builds it? His son. Shlomo HaMelech builds the Bet HaMikdash. What's amazing over there is, if you take a look in Melachim, you'll see Melachim Aleph, Zayin, Nun Aleph. The pasuk says, listen to these words. Says the pasuk, Vatishlam kol hamilacha. All the work of the Bet HaMikdash was completed. Asher asa HaMelech Shlomo Bet Hashem. He built the house of God. Vayavo Shlomo, Vayave Shlomo. Shlomo then brought et Kodshe David Aviv. Then after the Bet HaMikdash was built, Shlomo opens up the storehouses of his father David HaMelech, et HaKesef, et HaZahav, et HaKelim, Natan ba'otzarot Bet Hashem. After the Bet HaMikdash was built, Shlomo opens up the storehouses of his father David, and he takes out all the gold and all the silver and all the money. You know what that means? All that money that was earmarked and put aside to build the Bet HaMikdash one day was never used for the Bet HaMikdash. Not in the life of David and not in the life of Shlomo. Shlomo got the money from the people. Because Hashem says that money was in lieu of the blood. And you held that money back from the aniyim of Israel. I don't want that money for my house. So you know what Shlomo did after he built the Bet HaMikdash with different monies? Once the Bet HaMikdash was built, he opens up the storehouses and he starts bringing out the gold and the silver of his father. And what does he do with the money? Says the Radak, You know what he did with the money? He gave the money out to all of the Aniyim of Israel to bring a tikkun for his father who held it back in the years of famine. Wow. It's unbelievable. Says the Radak. Haya Ra'av bimei Abba. There was once a famine in the days of his father's kingdom. Shalosh shanim, 3 years long. His father was supposed to give out this money then. Lahayot behem aniyei Yisrael, to bring life to the poor of Israel in the famine in the days of David's kingdom. And they were sitting shamur le'etatzorech. And now Shlomo takes it out, gives it to the aniyim to finally bring a tikkun to his father. It's amazing. Amazing. And that's what we say. David HaMelech himself realized this. In Tehillim, you know what David writes? Im amarti mata ragli chastecha Hashem yisadeni. Im amarti mata ragli. Ay, 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 my feet. I hope it's going to hold up my feet. Chastecha Hashem. God's chesed is going to hold me up. He knew. He should have given the money. And he was worried. The ground might open up under my feet any moment because I wasn't patoach tiftach. And now, God forbid, I might end up with darga tevir. He knew it was coming. Look at the pasuk. Unbelievable. From here you see, it means more to Hashem to support Aniyim than to even build the Bet Hamikdash. You see it, black and white. And because he held back the money, that cannot be money to build Bet Hamikdash. It's amazing to me how the holiday of Pesach, which is the Chag that we all look towards for the redemption. B'Nisan nigalu Yisrael. U'b'Nisan atidin ligael. Every Pesach we say, maybe it's this one. Maybe it's this Pesach that we're going to be zochet to the big Geulah. Amazing. And right before Pesach, we get this amazing mitzvah of Kimcha de Pischa, to go and help the Aniyim, to make their Pesach as nice as your Pesach. And don't hold back and give. No wonder. Because it means more to Hashem, the supporting of the Ani and his Pesach, than the building of the Bet HaMikdash on Pesach itself. Or maybe it'll work the other way. If we, before Pesach, help out the Aniyim and give a real Kimcha de Pischa, maybe Hashem will say, you were patoach tiftach. Now finally I can stop the free fall of Galut. I can stop the Dargat Tvir. Now I can finally bring you up. Pesach means to jump, to leap. It's the opposite of Dargat Tvir. Dargat Tvir means to fall. Pesach means to leap, to go upwards, to reach heights that you couldn't reach all year. You want to know how you're able to reach high? If you get rid of the fall. How do you get rid of the fall? Don't hold back money from the Aniyim this Pesach. Last year we collected money to support 260 almanot and yatomim in Israel in the midst of Corona last year. Remember, the widows, they couldn't go to family. They couldn't go anywhere. Corona, everyone was quarantined in their own home. You couldn't walk outside. They had to make a Pesach alone. Could you imagine a widow with her children? She doesn't have a father by the table, a husband by the table. The kids don't have anyone to say the Manishtana to. Could you imagine such a Passover table? I said to myself, how could we sleep at night knowing that they can't make a Pesach? They can't make a Pesach due to their situation on a mental level. How do you make a Seder without a husband?
Who's leading the seder? It's hard enough what they're going through. Can't we show the compassion to open our hearts, patoach tiftach, and say enough with the free fall. It's time to do what needs to be done so we can build this already. Last year we supported 260 almanot in Israel. And this year we're planning to do double. Because we said to ourselves, we are so lucky that we got out of the last 11, 12 months. Not everybody was that lucky. How many rabbis we lost? How many tzaddikim we lost? How many good people we lost? All over the world. How many? If we're still here, it's because we have a job. That this Pesach, we're able to finally bring an end, not just to Corona, but to this galut. Finally, this is the way to do it. A Bet Hamikdash cannot be built unless the aniyim were taken care of first. A lesson that we learned hard from David HaMelech. And if you take that lesson, you may get to meet Ben David Avdecha. Yavo v'yigalenu. This coming Pesach night. Be'ezrat Hashem. B'mherav yameinu.